more frequent. But I'd just like you to say a bit more about how this all happens.
The purpose of studying is to be able to understand reality which appears now. So no matter you read a lot of Tipitaka, but if there is no understanding of reality which appears now, it's useless. So by understanding this, I think that Buddha taught all the time about development of reality, development of panya, which can understand reality of this moment. Because in Pali it is Samma Titti, and Samma is right, and Titti is understanding. So it's not just right understanding by thinking, but now at moment of seeing, these are Nama, which experiences the visible object now. So just hearing this and try to do something different or something else is useless. And if we do try the other way, how can there be the understanding of reality which now appearing? We will not understand any reality which appears all day through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. That's why when we study the teachings, we should understand that we are now listening in order to understand, to develop the understanding of the visible object, which appears as just a reality. Before this, we usually think in terms of people and things all the time. But in reality, what can be seen is just a reality which can impinge the eye sense or the eye base and condition the seeing at this moment. That's all, for just a moment, different from hearing and the other doorway. So by understanding that Dhamma is what appears now, whatever appears, no matter when and where, then by having such firm and sound foundation of understanding this, it can condition the moment of Sammasati, right awareness. So if there is no understanding about the difference between the sati at level of hearing or considering right now, there must be sati which performs its function unknowingly. All cetasikas perform their function unknowingly all the time. Even the seeing moment, the phassa cetasika, the vedana, sanya, cetana, ekakata, chivittindriya, manasikara, these 7 cetasikas are performing their function together with citta at moment of seeing. But who knows? Nobody knows about this if Buddha didn't tell us about this at all. But when one begins to study the teachings, it doesn't mean that one can understand like Buddha at all. But one knows oneself how much one can understand by not just considering, but by developing the understanding of the characteristic of realities. For example, the citta has its characteristic different from cetasika. This is very beginning. We heard when we read from the book and heard from the others about the citta and the cetasika. But now the citta is not cetasika because the cetasika has its own function like phassa and vedana. But citta is the faculty of experiencing an object just there. So in order to develop the understanding of Nama Dhamma, because there are 2 kinds of Dhamma, the Rupa Dhamma and the Nama Dhamma. Rupa, which appears in daily life, are only 7 rupas only. Visible object, sound, smell, taste, and tangible objects, and 3 tangible objects. So altogether there are only 7 rupas out of 28 classes of rupa. Because now who knows about the Vikara Rupa or other Rupa like the heart base? Because in the 5 khandas plane there must be the Rupa which citta arises from that rupa, which is the basis. There are 6 bases: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and heart base. But who knows about those rupa? For example, we talk about the eye base. Who knows about the eye base? We hear about it, but never know about it. If there is no awareness and the development of panya enough to be able to experience it. So we should not expect to experience any kind of reality, but by developing understanding, it's the function of sati itself to be aware by itself, by conditions, to be aware of this object or that object. That's why there should be the detachment from the very beginning, because usually people are attached to the result, very, very attached to the result. As soon as one sits, one expects to experience something more, not just the ordinary one. So by understanding that it's not the path to have more and more attachment, but the path is to have less and less attachment. That is the right path. Because now, even the nama and rupa arises and falls away so fast, nobody can experience that at all from the very beginning. But there can be the moment of beginning to develop the understanding of nama, that reality which now experiences an object, and the object which, when it's the visible object or sound, it is a kind of rupa, that's all. By learning about different moments as it is, there can be more and more detached from taking all these realities from I or self. So it's the way to detach all the way, along the way, from the beginning to the end. Because one knows that the lopa or tanha is the samudaya, the cause of all sankhara dhamma. Whenever there is attachment to sankhara dhamma, it's impossible to attain the characteristic of nibbana, to experience nibbana. Because nibbana cannot be experienced by lopa or attachment, by doing anything except having less and less ignorance about realities which appear in daily life.
But I think we need to know a lot about the realities that don't appear anyway, because do we also need to know a lot about the realities that don't appear in order for there to be the basis for more understanding of those realities that do appear?
But one shouldn't forget that why do we study all those realities as well? But one shouldn't think that one can experience or to be interested so much that one ignore the reality which appears, that should be the object of studying. For example, for seeing right now, should it be the object of studying, or should we think about the other object which does not appear? We can study in order to know that Buddha had enlightened all those realities as they are. But who are we now, and on what step are we now? Everyone sees, but it can be the reminder whether there is moment of awareness. It's not like concentration, because awareness is not concentration. Sati is not samadhi. So how these are different? Because you see that by having samadhi, the self is trying to concentrate on an object. The self is trying to concentrate on the object. So there is no detachment. But when there is more and more understanding of realities, even right now, the satipatthana can arise, like seeing can arise, hearing can arise by conditions. by understanding that all dhammas are anatta. Sati must be anatta. All dhammas are anatta. So when sati does not arise yet, it indicates that the studying of realities are not enough to condition right awareness. Because right awareness is very natural, as seeing now, or hearing now, or touching now. Because after seeing, usually there is the thinking, or the process of thinking arises after the seeing, usually. When there is hearing, the process of thinking follows instantly. But sati can arise instead of thinking when there is enough condition for sati to arise. For example, in a day, there must be many moments of touching. Tangible objects appear many times, but there is no awareness, no studying, no beginning of understanding tangible object as just a reality. There is touching. The citta experiences softness or hardness. Usually it is like that. But when awareness arises, it's a little bit more than that, just a little bit, which follows or which is there, studying the characteristic by itself, and sati also falls away, and it can arise again or it does not arise again at will. It depends on conditions, no matter it arises or not. So one begins to understand the very natural awareness which follows the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. Very natural. With detachment that there is no desire to have it again and again, more and more. So it's the very, very long time or long way to go for the development of Satipatthana. In Pali, the word of the long way is Jira Kala Pavana. Jira is long and Kala is time and Pavana is development. It takes time, very, very long time. But it knows, it can understand reality because there are realities now. So it just depends on conditions whether or not sati arises.
ต้องถามว่าไม่ไม้ที่จะหอนเนี่ยคือไม้ตัวนี้
So the test is the present moment and whether there is understanding of the reality of the present moment. But when it comes to, say, seeing invisible object, for example, there's only so much that one can study in the book about that because there isn't much to study, as it were, just about the moment of seeing. When it comes to other realities such as lopa, which is a reality that we are familiar with and does appear to us also, there's a lot of different kinds of lopa, and so it's helpful, I think, to study about that and know how many different kinds of lopa there are and what the different lopa that arise
ทดสอบเทส1 2 3 4 5 6 7ทดสอบ
that sort of thing, because these are all realities that appear in daily life. And same
ทดสอบเทส1 2 3 4 5 6
thinking. But that was I was always doubting about that, because I have heard that when we don't know the difference between nama and rupa, we cannot be aware of lobha or dosa. But it's wrong to say that, I feel, because it depends whether it appears or not. But can it appear when we don't know nama as nama?
It appears, but it's me. Lopa is me. It appears. When there is no understanding, lopa is me.
But I mean awareness of lopa and dosa.
There can be awareness in order to know that lopa is just a mental reality. No one at that very moment. Because you see that we keep on talking about the rupa and the nama very fluently. Anytime when we was asked whether this is nama or rupa, we can say instantly that it's nama and it's rupa. But what about this moment of seeing and the moment of hearing? Does one really see the different dhatu, different element? One can experience an object, and it must experience. Whenever it arises, it has to experience an object that is nama. It's different from rupa because rupa cannot experience any object at all. And what about this moment? It's in the book, the nama and rupa, or it's now. But it's impossible just to be able to understand the difference of nama and rupa right now without studying. No intellectual understanding at all, and one expect that there can be a moment that nama would appear and rupa would appear, because that is only expectation. But right understanding is not expectation at all. It's the development of understanding, and that person knows how it grows, little by little, and it can understand reality which appears better and better, but little by little. Otherwise, one will see people and things all the time. Never know that it's only visible object which can be seen, and the rest are only thinking about visible object which is seen all the time. So whenever sati arises, it's the moment which panya can study or begin to understand the reality which appears, which are different. One is the characteristic which can experience and now experiencing an object, and the other is experience the rupa.
So we can begin to be aware of lobha, or is it too difficult for us beginners?
One might think that one is aware of lobha, but what's the result of being aware?
To detach.
To know that it's a reality, a mental reality. So the point is to developing the understanding of the true nature of realities, which is not self because it's the mental phenomena or the mental reality, that's all. Because all the time there must be the idea of self. I see, I hear, I think, I'm getting angry, I have lobha, I have dosa. But lobha is conditioned to arise. And in order to really understand lobha as lobha, not me or not my lobha anymore, is by beginning to know that that is a reality. It has its own characteristic because lobha is different from dosa. Not just knowing that, oh, I know that this is lobha, or I know that this is dosa. That is not the understanding of lobha as a mental reality, or dosa as mental reality. When there is the mental development of understanding, it's like begin to read or to learn or to hear about Dhamma, because it must be the understanding of the meaning of Dhamma. Because we know that Dhamma is Dhamma, this is by learning or by hearing, Dhamma is Dhamma. But when there is awareness, it's the moment of knowing the characteristic of Dhamma, in order to know that there are all Dhammas every day. No one in the Dhamma at all. From moment to moment, from one characteristic to another characteristic, by developing understanding the true nature of reality. Not I see lobha or I know lobha. That is I who knows or who observes or who notices it. But satipatthana is not like that. It's the moment of developing awareness with understanding. Not only awareness, but when there is right understanding, there is awareness for sure. Sati is there. So it's not the intention to have more sati. What for? But when there is understanding, sati is there already. That's why for the Eightfold Path, the first one is samadhi. And it goes with each moment, little by little. For example, if one doesn't hear about the development of satipatthana at all, how can there be conditions for awareness to be aware? No way. But by having more understanding of the characteristic of sati at different levels, for example, sati, which is awareness of a characteristic, is different from sati now, which arises with panya, which can understand by considering. And it's not I who is considering. It's the sati and all cetasikas itself, which arise with citta and performs its function one characteristic, only one, together with citta. Like vedana is vedana. Vedana cannot be sanya. Sanya is sanya. Each one arises with citta together at one time. Even right now, we keep on knowing or understanding by hearing that vedana, sanya, cetatana. But now they are at this very moment arising with citta. It's like when we say that we know lobha and there is awareness of lobha, but it's thinking about lobha or being aware of lobha.
But we should not say we cannot be aware of lobha. That is not possible.
Sati can be aware of any reality, but by knowing the characteristic of nama, it means that one begins to know the lobha, which is nama. Lobha easy to be aware of. What is easy to be aware of?
Nothing. Nothing.
If there is no awareness of reality as nama and rupa yet, we just call it or name it dosa. If there is no development of understanding of the characteristic of nama, we just call it dosa. Dosa is like dosa every day.
Ajarn, I still don't understand what you mean by dosa is still dosa every day, because the dosa feeling is very different from lobha feeling.
But dosa cannot be lobha.
Right.
My question is, dosa is not lobha, and everyone knows that dosa is not dosa by what?
By self. Is it?
By the characteristic of lobha and dosa, because lobha does not have the same characteristic and function as dosa, but it's still thinking about it when there is no awareness, because one cannot change the moment of dosa into lobha, because that characteristic of lobha appears, but it's still me. That's why there should be the development of understanding the characteristic of dosa whenever it arises, that it's a reality, just a reality. If there is no studying at that moment, we keep on saying that it's a reality. But whenever it arises, there is no understanding that, oh, it's just a characteristic of reality. Just one characteristic.
Ajarn, I don't understand what you mean, because just now I think dosa keep arising, and then of course there is my the studyings. It helped me and say that this is just only a characteristic of dosa, but it's still there, and there is still a version of dosa, meaning dosa against dosa. Ajarn.
Who is thinking about dosa? Who is thinking that it's dosa? It's not awareness of that characteristic, which whenever there is right understanding, it's not you, but little by little.
So then, Ajarn, do you think that is it too high right now to study Satipatthana, because right now we don't even really understand the Banyati or the beginning of it?
It does mean that one keep on thinking that it's too difficult, or I do not have conditions enough for awareness to be aware. That is the moment of thinking again. But just leave it to the development of understanding about realities. Don't expect anything. And then when there are conditions for awareness to arise any moment, it arises. And Panya knows that it arises. That is the Satipatthana, which is different from Sati of the other level.
Ajarn, because lobha is so subtle, it's so easily attached to the idea. So therefore, like if we hear, oh, Satipatthana is the right way or the middle way or path of the Lord Buddha's teaching, it's like an attachment, automatic. It attached to the idea that, oh, okay, that's the way, and then it's still not the right thinking.
Yeah, it's thinking again. Because no one can stop thinking. But there are two kinds of thinking, right thinking and wrong thinking. So by understanding the characteristic of Satipatthana, that can be conditions for sati to arise. For example, at this very moment,
I think at once of the bird.
yeah, there is sound, and usually the concept, the thinking about that follows instantly. But if it does not think at that very moment, it can be the moment of studying or just arise after the sound and then knows that it's only a reality. It's difficult, but it's possible. For example, touching. Hardness is there. Usually we forget, and then there is the thinking about concept follows instantly. But if there is no thinking about concept, hardness is still there, and the understanding begins to develop by knowing that it appears only at the point of touching. What you take for your body in your mind, now like the body is sitting, the whole body is sitting, but the whole body does not appear at all, never appear, because it's only thinking about the whole body, the position of the whole body, but it does not appear. But whatever is real is conditioned to arise, and the rupa which citta experience can be object of understanding, while the rupa from head to toe, the very tiny particle, arises by kamma or citta or uttu or ahara, arising and falling away all the time. The rupa which is not experienced has arisen and fallen away unknowingly all the time. So what you take for the whole body as me, in reality, no you, no one, only hardness there, only that. No world, no other world like sight, sound, but that moment is the citta which experiences hardness, that's all, in the day, like this, through different doorways. So this is the way to know that there is no my body anymore, only hardness when it appears, only visible object which is seen, only sound which is heard, that's all. So, what is the pride of my body and myself when there is none? Arising and falling away all the time. Which one is yourself? Should we be proud of anyone or to be conceit of any hardness or softness?
Just on that last point, the body, I understand, I think what you're saying, that only a certain part of the body appears at any time and the rest we are actually assuming is there by our thinking. But I mean, the fact is, take one's back, for example. Every time you do sort of touch it, it's there. So it's, right? So even when it's not being experienced, you kind of know it's there from previous experience.
The same hardness?
Well, I suppose it's just a lot of thinking that and remembering, and that is built up and accumulated. But in a sense, it doesn't seem wrong, because every time you go to verify if it's still there, well, it is. So you just use if it's there when you're not verifying it too.
What is still there in reality? For example, when one touches hardness here, one usually thinks that it's there all the time, right? But in reality, whatever appears is conditioned to arise. Now, at the moment of touching and hardness appear, it indicates that hardness must arise by conditions. Otherwise, it's not there. It's not here. But you keep on thinking that it's there all the time. But in reality, the rupa arises and falls away in split seconds, very fast. It can last only for 17 moments of citta. That's all, because the citta arises faster than the rupa. But the rupa at this moment or any moment has only 17 moments lifespan. So it does not stay at all. What you keep on thinking that it's there, not there, it's not there. Whenever there is touching, it arises, the object arises, so it impinges the vara or the rupa, which can condition the consciousness which experiences the rupa. So we have to develop another understanding that it's not there. Otherwise, one must think that it's there all the time, my whole body.
Can we say that it's there, but it's not an object of experience the whole time?
No, because it arises and falls away faster than you think about it. What about the spaces in between the whole body?
If one thinks of the conditioning factors, for example, as I understand it, the body is conditioned by kamma, for example.
Each smallest, tiniest group of rupa, very tiny one, the tiny particle arises and falls away. Whatever arises has to fall away. Otherwise, there must be always the idea of self, because it's not the moment of experiencing directly the arising and falling away of nama and rupa.
Sometimes I feel that we know moments of reality are arising all the time, but self steals them before we can experience them.
Because there are only two different realities. The nama is the one which experiences an object and we take it for self. And the rupa, which does not know anything at all, and we also cling and take it for self too. So if there is no precise understanding of these two realities clearly, until the panya can experience the arising and falling away, it's impossible to get away or take away the idea of self. Because whenever there is seeing, it's me. Whenever there is feeling, it's me. When there is memory or sanya, it's me. And when there is like or dislike, it's me. All five khandhas or all namas and rupas. So the panya has to develop and understand more and more each moment as no one there who sees now. Because the mental reality experiences the visible object now. And at moment of hearing, it's not me, because it's only the reality which is nama, which can experience this sound. So in a day, there must be only the nama and the rupa. From birth to death, from life to life.
Ajarn, you've talked quite a bit about nama and rupa as the only two realities lately, and rupa is always defined as being the reality that does not experience anything. Is there anything else any other way we can describe rupa apart from that to help us?
By reading, by hearing, or by developing understanding. because we know about Dhamma, that everything is Dhamma. Whatever arises, no matter it's Rupa or Nama, they are Dhamma. This should be the beginning of understanding what we used to understand as everything is Dhamma. We do not go further, but Panya will develop further and further beyond thinking. So we don't have to think much. When there can be the moment of being aware and developing the understanding of Dhamma, just Dhamma first. It's hard to believe that they are all Dhammas, no one at all.
It doesn't seem hard to believe, but it seems impossible to experience.
When one believes, it means that there must be the way to develop Panya to that degree which can experience it, because it's so true. It's the Ariya Satya, the noble truth. If it's not like that, it's impossible to experience or to develop any level of Panya. But when it's true, it means that that is possible for the development of understanding, to experience it one day. Maybe not today. But I think that it's good to know, because reality appears now, and when there can be moment of studying it, developing understanding of the characteristic of Nama and Rupa, it's so true, and it's very, I don't know what to say. It should be done. Otherwise, we just keep on with our own idea about reality. But reality now appears ready to study, to understand more about it.
So can we say the task is to experience realities as they really are and not as we think they are?
Right.
We have a concept of how we think realities are. As Tom said, I think it's very appropriate that it's not so difficult to understand at a certain intellectual level that it's just Nama and Rupa, but the actual experience of that fact or truth is so difficult.
Yeah. Because by knowing this, we understand what is said in Tipitaka, that there are 3 levels of understanding: by hearing, by developing, and by experiencing or realizing the true natures of reality. Yeah, the first level is the Panya, right understanding from listening or hearing or reading. And the second one, when there is enough understanding theoretically, it can condition the moment of right awareness by knowing the difference between right awareness and the other reality like concentration. Because concentration is one cetasika and sati, awareness is not the concentration. But there are many levels of sati too. At moment of giving things like this morning, there must be sati at level of giving away things for the other's benefit. No matter it's dana or sila or samatha, these moments must be sati, which condition the giving or the sila or the samatha, the calmness or tranquility, but cannot know the reality as it is. Another level is the development of understanding by the awareness, right awareness, which arises by conditions, not by one's will. And the third is the realization, gaining from developing satipatthana. Without the development of satipatthana, it's impossible to experience the realities as they are. So it shows that there is not just the first level of Panya, there's also the second level, and by having the second level, there is also the third level of Panya.
uh, at the beginning level rises to experience, and it sounds like to me that like instead of worrying about whether or not like what has been experienced, whether or not is some kind of dosa or loba, that is the only thing that Satipatthana at the beginning would experience is the fact that like this is a Dhamma and maybe some characteristic of Nama and Rupa. Is that correct?
For example, it's quite not easy to understand the difference between sati at level of listening or considering, and sati, which is right awareness of a reality which appears. So by having understanding of the satipatthana more and more, there can be conditions for satipatthana to arise. Otherwise it seems like I'm trying to have satipatthana, I'm trying to think over it, about the reality which appears. For example, when there is a moment of being aware of a characteristic, thinking follows a lot about that, whether it's rupa, it's not me, something like that, because one cannot stop thinking. But by knowing the different moments of satipatthana and other moments, Panya can grow, and Panya can see that which moment is satipatthana and which moment is not satipatthana. Because satipatthana arises and falls away so fast, and they can be thinking a lot about satipatthana or the object of satipatthana. But later on, when there is more and more awareness of a characteristic, then one knows that the moment of right awareness is different from thinking about it. For example, right now, if satipatthana arises, it cannot stay, and at the moment is thinking about satipatthana. So panya must be keen enough to see the difference between these two, and knows which moment is satipatthana that panya will develop from that moment until it can directly experience reality, which is the object of awareness right then.
But it seems thinking about the reality that appears seems to be sometimes so very short that like it doesn't even appear to be wording that like you have to think that okay, this is loba, this is nama, this is rupa.
Usually it must start like that, and later on, when satipatthana develops on and on, without attachment. See, the path is different because the path is difficult because it has to go along with detachment. Usually we have attachment all day, but when we have attachment to the development of satipatthana, it's there again, unknowingly again. For example, even when there is awareness of a reality, there can be intention later, even at the moment of experiencing hardness or whatever it is, but the intention is not the path. See, so panya must be keen enough that at moment of intention wanting to know, even the object appears, that is wrong because it cannot develop by having intention to know. See, panya has to grow and see and understand the details of the moment of developing satipatthana too, whether it's the right one or it's the lopa, because only the sota patimakha citta can eradicate the silapatta pramasa, the wrong practice, completely, absolutely.
So the fact that like one may actually have loba immediately following after sati, or even like identification of the Dhamma that appears may in fact just be a form of subtle loba or not so subtle loba, and that would actually, is that correct?
Yeah, and panya knows, so that panya can grow higher and higher. If there is no understanding at that level, then it gets stuck again and again. Lopa does not let go. anyone at all. It follows. Even there is nothing appear right now except just with softness or hardness. No sight, no sound, no thinking. Only the hardness appear, very dark, because no light, no sound. But clinging is there. Hardness is still me, because even there is nothing at all. Lopa clings to whatever appears. Never let go. Only Panya can let go. Wrong understanding and clinging. That's why Panya can grow and grow and grow and grow. By developing right awareness.
You stress very often that that when we know the difference between the moments there is sati and the moments there is no sati, sati can be developed. And I used to think when the object is a concept, not the paramatta Dhamma, we can know the difference. But now I learned that there are other kinds of thinking of realities, and it is much more subtle to know the difference between those moments.
I think time is up, and so I'd like to thank you, Ajarn Sujin, for the discussion today. Thanks also to Kun Supi for discussions in Benares. Participants include Jonathan, Nina, Shin, Tom, Com, Beverly, Elle, and Jack.
I asked him about
Ask again that I found it difficult when there is no vipassana jnana and you don't know the difference between nama and rupa. Can there be awareness, not just thinking of loba and dosa? And Ajahn Supi explained that you can little by little learn the characteristics even before vipassana jnana without thinking. It is possible.
Without the moment of being aware and learn the characteristic of nama and rupa little by little, how can be the moment of realization of the characteristic of nama as nama and rupa as dhatu to Dhamma? Because now we know that realities are there, but each one has its own characteristic. But there is no awareness of anyone. We just know that each reality has its own, its specific characteristic. But when there is no awareness, it's only thinking. Keep on thinking. Even when dosa arises, there is thinking about the characteristic of dosa. That's why many people do not like to have dosa, because the characteristic of dosa is unpleasant. So they just want to get away from it instead of studying it and understanding it as just a reality. And the point is that the theory is not too difficult, but there is not enough condition to condition right awareness and develop understanding when there is right awareness of an object. But since they can be thinking about the nama or the rupa which appears, why not the awareness arise instead? But we are not used to the characteristic of awareness. We used to take samadhi, concentration for awareness. We used to think about the word satipatthana. But what about the understanding of the satipatthana itself? We just thought and said, without satipatthana there cannot be the development of right understanding. But when and what is the characteristic of satipatthana? This is the most important point. Because if anyone would like to develop satipatthana but not knowing anything about it, so how can that be?
trying to dress us all up. Well, she gave me a couple of dresses to see if they're suitable. She said if not, fine, give it to someone else. I've been trying to find a home for Anne. It's just right for Anne. It was a little bit too loose on me, and Dad said it was a bit loose for her, but for Anne it's just right. It's too thick to wear here. Stay right on She'll be very glad. So I thought, well, if none of you wanted, I may have to give it to my one of the friends. I may mention it, and then you can mention it later if you'll know what you're talking about. She did ask me yesterday. You've done me a favour, so I don't have to look for a home for it anymore.
ทดสอบเทส1 2 3 4ทดสอบเทส1 2 3
Looking for Kunham. Are you looking for Kunham? She just came. She came already, but maybe like.
But I didn't have it last yesterday. I arrived home. I thought I was going to get up, but I
Good morning, Ajarn and everybody. Yesterday, you mentioned about three best qualities of the Sama Sambuddha. Is they are Panya, purification, and Mahakaruna. So I am wondering that why is not Metta but Mahakaruna?
Was Buddha not the best friend for all, forever? To be Kalyana Mitta, there is the word Mitta. See? So it is the friendliness for anyone who is kind and has good wishes for everyone. But it's common to everyone. We can have that too, right? To be friend, to be great friendly, good friend to everyone. But what about Buddha? His Panya realized the danger of samsara. So from being a bodhisattva, he developed parami in order just to help the others too, because they are in what? The danger of not understanding the truth of this moment at all. That's why besides the metta, it is Mahakaruna. Yeah. When he went to any place to help people to understand, even before death, he went far a long way to help or to condition the panya for Supata, the last Savaka, to understand the truth. Everything can be considered carefully, and we begin to understand that before there can be the understanding of whatever appears now, what will be conditioned to support the understanding of what we have learned, to really understand what we are talking about, like seeing right now. No matter how long or how much we talk about it, it depends on the gradual understanding to know what can support or make the inclination little by little towards that which now sees. And even there is the understanding, intellectual understanding about everything like seeing, hearing and so on, but they are hidden by ignorance, so thick, so sticky. So how can there be that which can open up the truth of it if there is not closer and sotker getting to understand this moment as not self? So when there is seeing right now. It does mean that there is no seeing at all. But what about the understanding of seeing? We think we learned a lot from theory or his words that it's not self. But what is meant by not self? Not just by hearing that it's not self, but now it sees, and its characteristic is that which arises to see and then fall away instantly. If that cannot be directly experienced, how can there be the eradication of seeing now as no one at all? So each word should be studied carefully no matter we just talk about everything in life more and more, very often, it's not the object to be tired of, but to know that how much there is no understanding of realities right now as it is. That's why the more we hear about seeing, it does mean that there can be the enlightenment of seeing as it is just now, but learn to understand so far to go to understand. So it's now, see, but it cannot be understood without the teachings of the Buddha. And even it's now, and there's hearing about the truth of it, it's still something like table thing. So it has to be conditioned little by little, developed from understanding of whatever appears. That's why we come back again and again to this moment, to know how much ignorance is there and how less the understanding is now. But it can develop little by little, not by intention, not by the self, not by anything, but by understanding only. And when understanding is very little, how can you know that it understands? See, no one think or take it from hearing that it's me, but actually asava is there. So who can prevent having ignorance and the idea of self? Unknowingly, it doesn't mean that we have to say, this is not self, or this is still self. Not necessary, because realities perform their function, each one, as it is. Manasikara, or saddha, or sati, or viriya, and so on. So many things, unknown, until it's the moment of beginning to experience it well, and not well enough when it's not vipassana jnana, but it begins to be different from moments before hearing the teachings. So it's so truthful to know whether it's now yet pretty well or not, to what degree. When there is no awareness at all, can that reality appear well, because it arises and falls away in split seconds. No one, nothing at all. And this is the point of to born to understand the teachings or not, depending on conditions, and how much there can be understanding of the teachings in this life and other life, on and on and on. Very, very natural. See, natural. Is it now natural? Or I? Not as it is yet. But it is as it is just right now. So it depends on understanding only. Who can do anything? Not at all. So it arises to be this, attachment, aversion, ignorance, conceit, and whatever it is, to be known as not self when there is right understanding enough. As it is, this is very difficult, very hard to get, as it is right now. Like yesterday, we talked about the 3 kinds of dukkha, right? And what dukkha is now? Is there any dukkha now? When it does not appear, you cannot tell. But at the moment when it's there, and the reminder is that what kind of dukkha is now. So now, what kind of dukkha?
Viparinama dukkha.
Sankhara dukkha, unseen, unknown. Sankhara dukkha. And the dukkha can be known sometime. And viparinama dukkha, if there is no hearing of the teaching, no considering at all, who knows from moment to moment, it is viparinama dukkha. The craving for pleasant feeling. So it's not the matter to change, but to understand, to consider. By no self, no one, more and more difficult, more and more subtle. So we can get closer to understand Buddha from his word, only from his words. Is there? Yes, please.
Hello. Ajarn just mentioned a moment ago that ditthi, wrong view, the idea of self, is not natural.
Is it not a reality?
It is a reality. But Ajarn said that it was not natural when there's self.
Because of the self makes it not natural.
In how?
Intention should be that which is anatta, but wrong understanding twists it to I'm trying.
Right.
Just a little. That's why consider the words carefully until it becomes the right understanding which can lead to getting closer to understand the reality and the Buddha.
It's natural for wrong view, for ditthi to arise, but the nature of ditthi, the characteristic of ditthi is that it tries to change or has the perverted idea of what arises, and it leads to wrong practice that tries to have something else arise or tries to do something with the idea of self. So this is what she meant, that as you say, it's natural, it's bound to arise. But when there is the idea that there can be awareness of a different object or there can be the selection of an object, this is what is meant by not natural.
Yeah, actually wrong view, cannot see what's actually natural, right?
It's natural that different dhammas arise that are conditioned and anatta, but because of it has a perverted idea at that moment. It sees everything in an unnatural way.
Right. But that seeing unnaturally is natural, right?
Ajarn just mentioned about the experiencing well. It is with understanding or any moment without understanding for experiencing well?
Like now, we're considering that it's only hardness that's touched, but does that hardness that's experienced appear well, or it's just an idea about it? So there's just thinking about an idea, beginning to understand a little bit about the hardness, but it's not directly experienced, so it doesn't appear well. So it only appears well when it's not the object of thinking, but there is direct awareness of hardness at this moment. Then it's well.
Direct awareness, but with understanding.
With understand, it has to be with understanding. Moments of satipatthana has to be direct understanding and direct awareness at that moment.
So when we talk about direct awareness, it is taken for granted that it includes understanding as well.
I'm thinking that some mental state can experiencing the object well, but may be without the understanding about the characteristic as not self, or I don't know.
Seeing consciousness experiences visible object for example, and so the mental states that arise with seeing consciousness also directly experience visible object, but we are just using the term appearing well to refer to moments of awareness and understanding.
Okay, just to clarify what Ajarn meant.
Thank you.
Does any reality appear right now?
No.
Just to be reminded that we live in the world of concept and the idea of self quite a long, long time ago, and it will keep on being like this without understanding. So just one word, well, if there's no understanding, there is doubt about it. How well? It's hard. I experience it. Is that well? Not at all, because hardness arises and falls away all the time in each split second. And it's good to know how much ignorance is there, not away from this moment.
Can we say that appearing well is another way of saying appears as it truly is? And so that is what happens when there is awareness and understanding of a Dhamma. The Dhamma is seen as it truly is.
I lost the center in the middle.
I'm saying that we use the term appearing well to mean the same as is seen as it truly is.
Okay.
A Dhamma appears well, a Dhamma is seen as it truly is. Okay. It's the same meaning. So
known as it truly is. It's understood as it truly is.
Okay.
And that is the function actually of Panya Cetasika. But again, in the text, Satipatthana is used as a reference to moments of Panya. Yeah.
Ajarn, can I ask you about the aspect of one aspect of Sita is the being prompted or not?
Asking about sasankarika and asankarika chittas.
Sorry, I don't know Pali words.
Prompted and unprompted.
Yeah, prompted or not prompted. And I can, as my point of view that, for example, when I like listening to Dhamma, and I go here with some condition that Tham help me to come here. So it means that is being prompted. It means that I'm interested in learning Dhamma, but or listening Dhamma today. So it means that at that time, at that moment, it was caused by the other factor.
Do you ask about asankarika and sasankarika?
Yes.
They are gone.
Yes.
Yeah. So even in the first vipassana jhana, that is not known at all. So what about now? Just learn to know that some citta is weak and some citta is strong, with attachment or without attachment. And we cannot measure how strong it is or how weak it is at all. So we cannot say or try to find out and make it known as this or that. But the way it is no self. This is the most important. Days and days pass on without understanding of reality and think about appearing well. See, it cannot be from thinking, but from understanding that there is no self. That is the way it is. No matter it is lopa, mula, citta, sasankharika, or asankharika, or dosa, or whatever. That's all. Just go. By understanding this, it can support condition to understand this moment, little by little. No rush, no hurry, because it was taken for self from years and years ago. How can it go away so fast?
And when we think about a story about, for example, coming here and deciding to come here, how many chittas are there at that time of thinking about coming here? Countless chittas. Some strong, some weak. Impossible to tell which ones are sasankarika, which ones are asankarika. So if we think in terms of a situation like that, like, oh, my decision to leave Vietnam and come to Bangkok to hear Ajarn, and is it this Dhamma or that Dhamma? There will never be the understanding of Dhamma now, because we're thinking about that story and trying to fit the Dhammas into the story, not understanding what appears now.
So why we have to know about the this characteristics of citta is being prompted or not?
To support the understanding of no self, little by little, gradually, by understanding, not by I or self. So we can see different degrees of understanding. For intellectual understanding, understanding from hearing from book, how much there is understanding of what we heard. See, and that is only intellectual understanding. And it's not just hearing and thinking and think that one understand. The more one hear, the more one think about it, about sasankhari or asankharika. It's not like that at all. But it has to be the moment of whenever any word is heard. That is not self. Citta is not self. Seeing now is not self. That's the way to have more understanding of the truth. Otherwise, it takes one away to know the words about that which cannot appear now, because the condition is not enough to have such a degree of panya. Even we talk about sasankharika. When is sasankharika?
But what is that?
When it's very weak, see, and it needs something to condition it, like advertisement or friends or whatever. Different from you have your own condition to just come to hear the Dhamma, no matter who will not come and who asks you not to come. Is that strong enough to know asankharika? But if my friend does not go with me, I will not go at all. That is sankharika. See, just see very roughly.
So Ajarn, like when in the discussions and Ajarn asks, is there seeing now? Is it me? And then there can be the consideration at that moment that it's not me. Then that citta would be satsankarika, right?
Again. Each situation, whether it is satsankarika or sankarika.
But that very moment, I mean,
it does not support
because
to
it's
have direct understanding of this moment, because even the first vipassana jhana cannot understand the sasankarika or sankarika.
even the vipassana jnana cannot have. So at what level it can be understood?
Again, what level? We talk about many levels, but when that does not appear, who knows what level? Even right now, what level of understanding hardness now as a sound?
Otherwise, it's just wanting to pinpoint, wanting to find it, wanting to test out, like, is it Chanda now, is it Viriya now, is it Sasankarika, is it Asankarika? This is unnatural, because behind it, it is the idea of self trying to find it. So it's a subtle kind of practice at that moment, trying to work out, is this citta right now sasankarika, asankarika, is it strong, is it weak? So it's not the moment of understanding what appears naturally now. So that's the distinction, that's what it means about appearing.
But like for all of us, or like Lee, who hears about that for the first time, so like the only thing we have is to give her some indication what that the meaning of sansakarika.
So that's why, like Ajarn said, we can say just roughly, like if when the lobha is strong, when one just wants something badly, we know that it's asankarika, but when it's weak and one's not really very interested, but it's encouraged, then it's sasankarika. But that's it. But if we then go on to say, now at this moment when I taste my drink, is it asankarika or sasankarika, then it's going wrong, then it's trying to find it. So there can be rough approximate understanding, but if one is looking for it or trying to find it or try to work out, when I came here, was it strong or weak interest, then it's following the wrong path, because it becomes unnatural. Self is trying to catch it or get it. A subtle distinction.
So is it probably when you're trying to know, the example you gave about the cup, right? It's wrong probably because what is actually happening in that moment is lobha, and it's not whatever you're looking for.
And ditthi is there too.
Yeah.
It's I who wants to know, and I who thinks, the ditthi thinks that, but it can work it out. It's not understanding what appears.
Exactly. It's not the present
It's the wrong
moment.
idea that by thinking out this story, it's a bit like reading some text. If one reads some text in order to understand what appears now, it's not right. So it doesn't mean that drinking the water is wrong or reading the text is wrong, but when it's the idea of I can try to pinpoint or find it, then it's wrong.
In any event, at those moments, the attachment itself is not directly appearing, it's just thinking about the attachment that conditions the picking up of the cup, right? It's like talking about what is seen now, or unless there's actually awareness arising, the reality has fallen away, and it's only thinking about what has passed. So at best it's just the story of the attachment and whether or not it might have been prompted or unprompted. Because it can only be known when a reality is the object of awareness and understanding.
And you're supporting the idea that there's an I who can bring about the understanding, right?
That depends on the intention of the individual at the moment, but so we can't say for sure, but it could be.
But it's behind that idea of I can be aware and somehow I can catch it and find it so that awareness can arise and know that reality at that moment, however subtle.
We can say that any kind of focusing on realities or an aspect of realities with a view to trying to understand it more is likely to involve an idea of self, yes.
Yes, so I know that at the moment when I asking that question, it's also that the Loba Mula Sita arise, and yes, and I cannot, I don't understand about the characteristic at that time. That is the Loba characteristics accompanying with wrong view and being prompted or not at that time. Yeah, but I cannot. I don't know about that. Yeah.
It depends. One may just have read the word and not know what it means, so one may be asking what it is, and that is not wrong view at that moment. But it comes back to this moment, and I think that Ajarn's point is what can be known now, what appears now, because now there's just a little understanding, so the nature of what is asankarika and sasankarika, strong or weak, prompted, unprompted, doesn't appear. So what about what does appear now, like the loba?
I think many of us might feel a little bit put off when there's pointing out of wrong view, but actually it's natural because we are but putuchana, we're not enlightened beings, so it's bound to happen. So it's just a conditioned Dhamma and it should be understood, and it should not be a source of worry.
Sometimes it's the mana, the conceit, that makes it difficult to hear or difficult to ask a question, or now everyone will think I have wrong view or something. It's just mana, something like that. But usually in all these years when I study with Ajarn, when it's pointed out that it's not right, it's wrong understanding, or it's taking one away from the right path, or that the question is motivated by something like desire for results or something like this, usually those points are the ones that are most helpful, even though at the time one might feel a little disturbed. But for the sake of Dhamma, it's really important to raise the questions that are on one's mind and to have these experiences. I'm sure Nina will agree. Have you got a microphone? What do you think, Nina? Like Tom said, it can be a bit off-putting, like if one's told what one said represents wrong view or something like this.
No, I don't think it's off-putting. It's very good as a reminder, because we can't be reminded enough all the time. Yes.
I think the more understanding grows, the more understanding there is, the less off-put one is by it, because one realizes the importance of it and realizes that ditthi arises so often.
And it's not my ditthi. It doesn't
That's
belong
right.
to me or anyone. I think over the years, some of us have studied with Ajarn for a long time,
And those who continue are the ones who are not off-put by whatever is said when it's pointing to the truth. Some people find it so off-putting, or there's too much mana, so they disappear because they don't want to hear it. So, and even in the Buddha's time, as we know, some monks couldn't understand the meaning because of too much mana. So it's a wonderful thing if one can hear the truth when it's pointed out and not be put off. It's a great, great blessing to be able to hear that truth when it's pointed out like that.
Can I ask about the wrong view? Let's say at the moment of thinking about the reality that already falling down, then they're thinking about what kind of the reality it is. Maybe it's a doba or dosa. So are there any wrong view behind the time of thinking about to find out what kind of the reality that already passed away?
Who wants to know at that moment? Because as you say, those realities have long fallen away. So who wants to work it out? Who wants to know what kind of reality it was?
There maybe is the loba that want to know, but I mean,
for sure, definitely, the loba would like to know, and maybe some moments loba with ditthi wants to work it out because it thinks that then it couldn't be known or understood, but actually it's gone, so what's gone can't be known anyway. But definitely it's loba that is trying to find it out for me, so to make me wiser. It's not the understanding of what appears naturally. It's trying to work it out, trying to determine what it was in that situation. I'm not just talking about conventional thinking like everyone might say when they fall over, oh, that was careless or something, but when it's really trying to work out what kind of chittas there were at that moment. I think the wrong idea of self is behind those ideas. And definitely loba is not understanding what appears now, because it's all gone. What do you think?
Is understanding you?
No.
But when there is understanding, there is the idea. I should understand more or better. See, it comes in writing. But at moment of hearing, it's the reality which performs its function, each one. Like manasikara or panya is there already. No need to think after that I will develop more. See? So one is trapped with or by ignorance all the time, unknowingly. And if there is no understanding of one is trapped, should one try to get out? That's why from hearing, understanding understands, that's all. And when there is the idea more about how to understand better, that is I again. So it's quite a long, long way to have the understanding of no self completely, little by little. A moment of this, a moment of that. But so many things just arise and falls away, never to return. So it has to, not the idea of self, but it's there for panya to understand, to know, finally that it's not self. So people say that I'll try, see, I'll develop after hearing. That's not right. Because even the understanding of this moment is not self, but the self after that comes in.
It's on about the situation or story. But let's say I bring out the other situation like this, like when anger or attached to something, like example, and some moment of consideration, like hey, it is my loba or my dosa, consideration about the idea of non-self there, then it's just natural developing or natural consideration about whatever just arise, right? So no problem with that. It just naturally happen.
So then it's like I mentioned, it's when it's just ordinary, like before we heard the Dhamma, and then one knows, oh, I got too angry, that wasn't skillful. It's just ordinary kind of thinking, usually whether it's thinking of any kusala or akusala, but no understanding of Dhamma as anatta, but it's just ordinary thinking. It's different from when it's the idea of trying to pinpoint what kind of Dhamma was there, and was there anger at each moment, or was there some lobha in between, or then it's like a kind of practice or focusing or trying to find out what kind of reality it was, not understanding anything about this moment at all. Did you want to ask something, sir? Yeah.
It's now natural. See, it has to be just like this, depending on understanding how much there is understanding of how many things here and now. And this is the way, and that is what it meant, natural. So there can be right understanding of understanding whether it's less or more, anytime. From moment of seeing and moment of touching, what about understanding today, this time, and the other moment? More difficult.
Can I say like this? As long as the understanding not understand the right characteristic of reality or not developing enough, we cannot say this is right or that is wrong, something like that is not. Okay.
It's just thinking and speculating, usually with ignorance and attachment, yes. If it's not, there may not be any kind of wrong practice or wrong idea. It may just be saying, oh, that was anger yesterday or something like that. Just ordinary thinking, but usually with ignorance or attachment, because there's no actual understanding, there's no dana, there's no metta.
I have a question. Usually we know that in living being, there's the rupa, which is jivitindriya, rupa, that distinguishes from living being and non-living being. So when we see a living person, it's different from a dead corpse. But just now I was looking at these flowers and I was wondering whether it's artificial flowers or real flowers. And there's the difference between real flowers and artificial, but they are not living being anyway. They are conditioned by temperature. So what would make the difference between the two?
You're talking about Jivitindriya Rupa?
No, I'm talking about the flowers, both artificial and the real ones are conditioned by Uttu. by temperature, both. So what makes the difference between the two?
Difference in the detail.
We can't say because not enough.
It's like asking what makes the difference between the red one and the white one.
Is it real or not real one?
I don't know.
See?
But yeah.
So it depends on memory. We can see the so very different memory to remember this and that and that and that.
Okay, okay. That's the memories. Okay.
A little bit confused when there are many things we have to know about the realities that run out. And for me, I like to read the detail of Cetasika, of Chitta, or some mental factor, something like this, very detailed. But as my age, so easy to forget about the name. For example, we have a 7 Cetasika always appear with all Chitta, but sometimes I cannot say Phassa, Vedana. And now Ajarn help us to understand more and more about the realities that right now. And I understand this is the way to understand, to lead us to understand the ultimate reality. And a little bit confused when I try to remember Sukh Phassa is the touching, or Vedana, or sometimes I remember what's its name. So I can't remember, but easier than very difficult to, when Ajarn said, when we see this is the chair, the table, what reality right now? So touching have the hardest, softness, many, very difficult. So sometimes some of our friends ask about the Dhamma, Chitta, Sika, and the name is very difficult to understand. So I a little bit curious to understand about this name, so I open the book. So I think something conflict, something not too easy. So maybe this my understand during 3 days here with Ajarn. But the first thing I would like to say, I very appreciate with our teacher.
You mean too much to learn, too much to hear, or what? Just one word is enough. Dhamma, not self. Only that. You don't need to remember the names of the all Cetasikas or this and that, ayata and so on. Just remember Dhamma, not self. And whatever is heard, it condition or support the understanding of no self. Rather than try to remember and think that because of the age you cannot remember all the Cetasikas. No one here can, I think. If you don't think and think and think over it, it's all gone. 24 Sopana Cetasikas, is it necessary? Then understanding the all Dhamma.
And what is Dhamma? We have to learn more and more and more.
now.
Yes.
What appears now is
Yeah.
not self.
Yeah.
Some Abhidhamma teachers are very knowledgeable in all the details, and when they teach, their students have to memorize all the details, all the names, all the cetasikas, all the what arises at what moment, and all the intricate points and details. But it's all book knowledge, because if there's no understanding of, for example, pleasant feeling now, what's the point of learning all the book detail of exactly how it's conditioned and this and that? So that's why with Ajarn I've never learnt all the tables and details and names, but it's only just by reflecting and considering more that gradually one becomes more familiar, but not because of trying to memorize. And we all have, it's the same for all of us. Sanya can't remember everything or all the details. It doesn't matter at all.
About Sanya, I would like to have one point to clarify. So there is Sanya with every chitta, not only in this world, in our realm, but also in all other realms of the samsara.
When it says that Sanya and the other 6 cetasikas arise with every chitta, it means with every chitta in any realm,
yeah,
any time,
okay,
past, future, present.
Yes.
So any time at all, for every being in animal realm, hell realm, heavenly realm, arupa
Yeah.
realm, always sanya has to arise whenever chitta arises.
So Sanya arises and marks and remembers the object. When, for example, in our previous life, there were Sanya and marks and remembers, but in another life, there are conditions for, the accumulated Sanya to remember something. If by condition it appears again, isn't it?
All depending on conditions, like in this life, who can remember what was experienced when they were a baby? Just Sanya marked and remembered each visible object, each sound, but no conditions for that memory to be known now, because for various reasons. And in the past life, nothing can be remembered about it. But like now, why are the conditions to be interested to hear? Because of previous hearing and considering and understanding with Sanya.
So for example, in a dream, there might be some, very strange things happening in the dreams, and it's partly caused by something we have met in the reality, but it also, there might be some sanya from before it affects the dream, isn't it?
There's no way of knowing whether what one sees in a dream is based on memory from past life or just made up from present life. No way of knowing.
What we know is because of experiences of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, there's going to be dreaming and imagining all sorts of things because of thinking about those experiences.
So we all would be interested to know more about previous lifetimes, I'm sure, but it's actually not useful information to have, it's just curiosity.
I'd like to add something about your question about not remembering all the names and all the details. But Ajarn often talks about what can be experienced now, like seeing. So we don't have to worry about remembering names, because it can be experienced now, and when we listen more, we can understand that it is not the self that sees. So no worry about details. Just listening when Ajarn talks about whatever can be experienced at this moment, like seeing or hearing.
Thank you, Nina. And just a point. I read many books come from you, or they translate to Vietnamese by Thambach. There are many details. The confuse is how can you read the book like this without detail and the name.
So it's just little by little that we can learn about the details, but not a question of remembering all, but little by little it's helpful. It's always helpful, but not all at once. As Ajarn often says, one reality at a time, one word at a time we can study, but not all at once. So in a book, when you read a book, it can be just no hurry at all.
And when I want to remember many details, so I think it's at first try to get something, maybe wrong way to improve.
It makes life so difficult,
yeah.
Because then you cling to wanting to know. It makes life more difficult, not necessary.
Thank you.
Just be another kind of loba, just another kind of loba wanting to collect the details and being disappointed when one forgets them.
And if you were to ask Nina whether she could now remember all those details that she wrote in the book, I'm sure the answer would be no.
I forget too. I forget many names, yes.
One time on a trip in India a long time ago, some friends from America asked Nina some detailed question, and she said, "Oh, I forget the answer." And they said, "How is this possible? You wrote a book with all these details." And I said, "Well, because, it's one thing writing and another thing remembering. Of course. Even Ajarn forgets some details. Everyone does. It's common. So it's not important at all. If one clings to being the one with good memory that doesn't forget, it's not the right way at all. Or if one, sometimes we make mistakes. Even Ajarn sometimes makes mistakes. But she says, I don't mind at all. We don't want to mislead, but it's just common. So it's just the way it is. None of us are the Buddha. So if it's when one minds, it's mana which gets in the way.
And other topics. Can I say other topic? Yeah. Like the happen together of our listener. For example, yesterday when we say about chanda, we use the word English words, interest. So Thambach help us to understand more clearly about the word interest, have a meaning like holding. So I think it's very useful and very detailed. So Jonathan, can you help us to some more advice about the, because I think when Kuang asked about Chanda topics, you have some advice to him. I remember you said, if you think it's beautiful, it's good, but you don't think so. I remember like this. Okay. Sure, maybe you can help me more clear about this.
No, I don't have any advice about Chanda because no one can advise anyone about Dhammas. What I remember saying yesterday was the best we can do is to listen to an explanation of the nature and characteristic of the different Dhammas and to consider that from time to time. But in terms of trying to find out when it's arising or would it be present if such and such a situation occurs, then I think that's not useful. So we can discuss these Dhammas that play a role in our daily life, but let's not forget that only some of them appear, not all of them appear to be understood. And those that don't appear, we should not think of how we can make them appear. But gradually, over time, discussing on different occasions, considering in between, things become a bit clearer. That's all we can say.
On another point, I just want to clarify one point in relation to a question Hung asked on the first day in this room. I thought perhaps I'd misheard the question, but her question was she had read in one book that Kusala Chittas, Mahakusala Chittas, can perform the function of Patisandhi, rebirth consciousness. And I just want to clarify and confirm that only Vipaka Chittas can perform the function of Patisandhi because it's Vipaka Chitta. So as we said, there are 19 Chittas that can perform the function of Patisandhi. We've discussed 2 are Santirana Chittas without roots. So if it's rebirth in an unhappy, woeful realm, it's performed by Santirana Chitta, Akusala Vipaka. And if it's rebirth in this realm, but one is very handicapped from birth and there are no roots, it's performed by Santirana Chitta. So that's 2. And then there are 8 Kusala Vipaka Chittas, any of which can perform the function of Patisandhi. And the reason there are 8 Kusala Vipaka Chittas is because they may be asankarika or sasankarika, with understanding or without understanding, with pleasant feeling or with neutral feeling. Who knows now whether the Patisandhi Chitta and was and all the Bhavanga Chittas, like in deep sleep or in between processes, are with pleasant feeling or neutral feeling? We don't know. We can speculate, but we don't know. And then there are those Chittas which are the results of Rupa Chittas and Arupa Jhana Chittas and Arupa Jhana Chittas, the results, the Vipaka Chittas, which can perform the function of Patisandhi in Rupa Brahma realms or Arupa Brahma realms, but must be Vipaka Chittas. So thanks for pointing that out, Han.
I have back to questions about Sanya, because Sanya is with every chitta, and also
it is in Bhavanga Chitta, but I know Bhavanga Chitta during deep sleep and Chuti Chitta and Patisankti Chitta have the same object. So it means sanya marks and remember the same object.
So because each Bhavanga Chitta and also Patisanti Chitta and Chuti Chitta is exactly the same kind of chitta, even though at moment of birth or moment of death it performs a different function. But that chitta is exactly the same kind of chitta and it experiences exactly the same object and has the same chaitasikas arising with it. So each moment, each chitta is not the same because it arises and falls away, but it arises, performs the same function. Each Bhavanga Chitta experiences the same object, is accompanied by sanya, which also experiences that object. So each one is the same. So if it's sasankarika from birth, weak from birth, it means every Bhavanga Chitta is exactly the same. If it's accompanied by pleasant feeling, it means every Bhavanga Chitta is accompanied by pleasant feeling. So marks and remembers same object at each moment.
It's difficult to imagine.
Does sanya play any role in the process of understanding development?
Actually, it's very important role because like now, there's listening, considering about Dhamma. If there was no sanya, marking and remembering what was heard and considering, there couldn't be any considering about it. And there can't be any understanding of what hasn't been considered carefully. So even now, whilst listening, sanya's marking and remembering in order for that kusala sanya to accumulate with panya and sati and other wholesome factors so that understanding can develop. No chitta could arise, no panya could arise without sanya.
At the moment of understanding, the sati arises, and the function of sati is remember the wholesome. And I'm not very clear about this point.
It's a different kind of remembering. Sati is not forgetful of the object, so it attends to the object. It's a different thing from memory, or which recalls by virtue of the mark that has been made. It is able to identify the object. But here, when it's sati, it is not forgetful in the kusala sense of attending to the object. So the word remembering is used, but we have to understand it's really not the remembering, the same remembering as memory.
Can you remember that Ajarn said, what appears now?
Remember the word.
Sorry?
Remember the word.
You can remember
voice.
the words. How can you remember those words?
Sanya.
Sanya. So if there was no sanya that remembered and conditioned thinking about it, then the words are useless. No point in her saying it if it's going to just be completely forgotten. So it's sanya that remembers and conditions some considering and understanding of the meaning.
I'd like to add something. Strong sanya in the text is said to be one of the conditions for satipatthana, and the four of satipatthana are the conditions.
without strong, firm sanya of what is the object, what is reality, then there cannot be any satipatthana, any direct understanding of those realities. If there hasn't been hearing and considering that what is touched is tangible object now, then no conditions to understand that tangible object. So it depends on sanya to remember, to be aware.
But again, no worry, because it depends on conditions, whether there is strong sanya. So you don't have to worry.
It's kind of a supporting condition, the sanya. Because understanding condition, another understanding, it is the main condition.
It's not a path factor, but we know that without sanya there cannot be any right considering, any wise reflection, any direct awareness or understanding.
So when talking about the conditions for satipatthana, Thira Sanya and satipatthana are mentioned. In that context, what is the meaning of satipatthana? Is it the object of satipatthana, or is it the already arisen satipatthana?
Is satipatthana the word or reality?
Satipatthana
Is
are
it
realities.
just a word or a
Reality. Realities.
Reality. When it does not arise, can anyone understand satipatthana as it is?
No.
So is there sati now?
At the moment of kusala,
understanding.
or understanding.
Okay. Is it satipatthana?
Not at that level.
Not yet. So without the firm of thira sanya, can there be condition for sati to arise and be aware of
No.
whatever appears now?
No.
Because they are all anatta. So there is the answer for why doesn't sati arise now as satipatthana yet? Because not enough thira sanya of sati or understanding realities. That's why no one can make it arise at all. That's why no one can make it arise. It depends on thira sanya only.
And Thira Sanya always means with sati and panya.
Without panya, there cannot be satipatthana at all.
I think many people interpret that Thira Sanya is just strong remembering. So that's why they make people learn the words. And I remember the discussions with the monk. He also mentioned that satipatthana is a condition for satipatthana. So he understands the meaning of satipatthana in that context as the object. So he thinks that just by thinking about the object, it can make the satipatthana to arise.
I think it's a bit like when it is said that concentration is a proximate cause for awareness and understanding. It's referring to the concentration that arises together with the awareness and understanding. So I think I would consider the Thira Sanya to be similar, that at moments of awareness and understanding, the Sanya is of that strength, that's all. But so it's a way of emphasizing that particular mental factor.
Thira means strong. Yeah.
And Thai, your question reminds me that you asked a similar question the other day about kusala. What is its role in the development of understanding? And I'd just like to emphasize, or in case it wasn't clear, that of course all kinds of kusala are a support for the development of understanding, including kusala performed already in previous lifetimes, because the conditions into which we are born in this lifetime are important as supporting conditions for the development of understanding. The reason we have come across the Dhamma in this lifetime is because of kusala performed in the past, not because of anything we've done in this lifetime or any kusala developed in this lifetime. So in terms of developing understanding, we don't have to think of having more kusala as a condition for developing understanding. The main factors for developing understanding in this lifetime, as we know, are association with the wise person and hearing the true Dhamma and so forth. And these are, if these factors are present, it is because of kusala performed in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back to memory, to, well, a different aspect, I suppose. Conventionally, we can talk about people's memory declining, memory loss, etc. Sanya arises with each citta. So when memory loss conventionally is talked about, it's talked about because there appears to be less memory, less ability to remember. Is that because of weaker sanya? I may be mixing apples and oranges. I don't know.
What about if someone is in a coma? Is the sanya at those moments?
Yes.
Yes. So we can't say it's weaker or
right.
stronger, like when someone in old age is more and more forgetful, or even for us, we come out and we find we've forgotten to bring our pen, for example. Does it mean that there was weaker sanya? No, it just means that sanya didn't remember what we would like it to remember. But sanya is marking remembering each moment. But if it's remembering some childhood experience instead of where we put our pen, then it's just by conditions for that sanya at that moment to remember a different object. So at each moment. I think when we talk about thira sanya, firm or strong sanya, it's referring to that degree of kusala that sanya has to be to condition the sati of satipatthana at that moment. But it doesn't mean that if there is wrong view instead at that moment that the sanya is weaker. It
right.
just
it's
means it
aspect.
remembers the wrong object.
Thank you.
So there are times when we do things and then actually we don't really know what we are doing. But at the moment even sanya is marking, but the fact that we don't really know, it's because of ignorance, right? It's because of moha and not because of weak sanya.
We may be cooking and burn the curry and make some mistakes, and it may not be because of moha, it may be because there is thira sanya and satipatthana, understanding realities, no thinking about the cooking. So it depends on what there is thinking about at that time. Yeah.
But at the moments of thira sanya, then it knows very clearly what is the object at that moment.
The reality at that
Realities.
moment, yes. So it doesn't mean, so at that moment, conventionally, there may be a lot of forgetfulness. The curry may be burnt, but there can be enlightenment at that very moment. So it has nothing to do with conventional ideas of weak memory or being forgetful, or like this morning I was swimming and I was meant to be counting the laps and I kept losing count, and because I was reflecting on other things, but it has nothing to do with whether the memory is strong or weak or kusala or not. It just depends at that moment. Usually memory arises with ignorance and attachment, of course, but even at moments of understanding, conventionally it might be said there was no memory because she tripped up or something. But so
Yes,
who can say?
Just not from the outside, but from the inside. If there's no really recalling of what exactly happened in the mind, what is the object of the mind, then you can be sure that it's the
Usually
moment
just
of
ignorance
moha.
and attachment most of the time.
Right. And I think that also in the text, they mention about sanya with sati and sanya with panya, like different levels. Like when sati, when sanya arises with panya, is compared to carving on the stones. So it's very, very strong and sure. When there's no sanya, but no panya, but just sati, it's like writing on the sand. And when there's no sati, no panya, it's just like writing on the water. Do you know about that simile? And would you have some comments?
Is that sanya at that moment when you think of other things? Is there sanya at the moment when you think of other things? No
The
doubt
time.
about sanya. Where is sanya according to conditions? It's now who knows sanya. See, together with seeing, hearing, smiling, thinking, whatever citta is there.
And like other mental factors, it can be strong or weak, like at moments of vipassana jnana, when it must be strong. At moments of robbing a bank, strong, but if there's trying to pinpoint or check it, again it's the wrong way.
And I think what you just, the simile you just gave about being carved in stone or written on the sand supports what I said earlier, that it's a reference, tira sanya is a reference to the sanya that arises with understanding, and not a kind of sanya that is necessary to have before there can be, in order to have understanding.
Nothing to do with our daily life understanding of good or bad memory, strong or weak memory. Like conventionally we say someone who can remembers all the details has strong memory, but this is nothing to do with sanya. Everything depends on conditions.
Related to the sanya. So I already read about three cetasika, sanya, vedana, and panya. I think I already understand a little bit about conventional term. Maybe if you think it's useful for me, can you have me to understand more about the point is the same or the point is different between Panya, Sanya and Vijnana. Vijnana. If you think it's useful for me.
So we've been discussing about Sanya. So what about Vedana? What is Vedana now?
Yes.
What is Vedana now?
Seeing, hearing.
Vedana?
In seeing, yeah.
Did you ask about Vedana, Chetasika?
Yes.
What is Vedana?
No, Vedana, Vijnana.
Oh, Vijnana.
Vijnana.
Yeah, Vijnana is the same as Chitta or Mano. So
Sanjaya.
seeing is Vijnana, hearing is Vijnana, each Chitta is Vijnana. It's
Yes.
just another word for Chitta.
Yeah.
So
But-
if we
but the
talk
meaning-
about Vijnana Kanda, it's referring to any kind of Chitta.
Yeah.
So each Chitta is accompanied by Sanya. But the Chitta, the Vijnana, is the leader in experiencing. So at a moment of seeing sees what is visible. It doesn't remember, it doesn't mark, it doesn't feel anything, it just sees, that's all. It's the Sanya which remembers and marks, it's the Vedana which feels neutral at that moment.
Yeah. Thank you.
You would like to ask whether the Panya, Sanya and Vijnana different, right?
I think you're asking about, for example, the simile that we read about and what is known. So the Vijnana just experiences the object. It doesn't know anything about it. It doesn't remember anything about it. It just experiences the object as it is. So at a moment of understanding, for example, the Chitta doesn't understand the reality. It experiences the hardness, for example. It's the leader in experiencing it. And at that moment, the Sanya marks and remembers it. It remembers that this is hardness. It marks it for future reference. And that marking at that moment is accumulated because it has remembered in the past that this is hardness, that object. At this moment it remembers it is hardness again. And it's the Panya at that moment which understands the characteristic, the nature of it. The Sanya doesn't remember anything. The Chitta doesn't understand anything. Only the Panya understands this is hardness, that reality, not self. This is the function of Panya, to illuminate, to make it light, to make it clear. But without Chitta and without Sanya, Panya couldn't arise.
Ajarn, my Shun, he slept some days ago. He gave me a question and asked Ajarn. Ajarn, the word of the Buddha teaching about the reality, condition for the understanding of no self. So his question is, what is the difference between thinking about no self and understanding of no self? Thinking about non-self and understanding of non-self.
Thinking is thinking, that's all. You can think without understanding. Or when there is understanding, it depends what level.
like same as thinking like others and thinking about non-self, just thinking.
If there is the thinking about no one in this room, is that you?
No.
So what is that?
It's thinking.
How much understanding is there at the moment of thinking about no one here? Or just repeat, or just as a reminder?
Just remember what hurt before.
Okay, what is seen? There is seeing
Chitta.
right now. What is experienced or seen? See, it's here and now, the understanding of what is seen. It's different from thinking when you heard what is seen. But what is seen here, now?
In reality, it's the visual object.
You call it.
Yeah,
See, but that is a level of understanding of the words. But not the moment of understanding the characteristic which is not self.
Right.
So they can be thinking about anything, but it depends on what level of understanding is there.
There can be thinking now that, for example, all Dhammas are not self, right? Would that thinking be kusala?
You mean thinking about the non-self?
Thinking that all Dhammas are not self.
It could be reflection about the realities, but it could be not about attached to what thinking.
So would it be thinking about realities that are appearing now?
Without appearing now?
If there is the thinking that all Dhammas are not self, would that be a thinking about realities that are appearing at the present moment?
Can you...
Right, okay. I'm trying to draw the distinction between... because Ajarn asked you about seeing an invisible object. I know it's not your question, but anyway, we're just going through this exercise.
I represent for...
Yeah. When we are asked what is the object of seeing, it may be a condition to... It may relate to... it may be kusala, for example.
Right.
If we just have the idea that all Dhammas are not self, without having any particular... be correct, it is correct, because it is part of the teaching, but it would be unlikely that just having that thought was kusala. So the difference between thinking and direct understanding, of course, is quite wide.
What usually follows seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching?
What usually follow thinking?
See, so they must be thinking all day after seeing, hearing, so on.
Okay. Yeah.
No doubt about thinking. About what? It's thinking. Can seeing think?
No.
Can thinking see?
No.
Very simple question.
Yeah, simple question. But it's based on what we heard about it, right?
And when there is no thinking,
no thinking, it must be over the other sense. Citta arise.
Thinking follows seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Yeah. So when will there be no thinking?
When at the moment of seeing, hearing, touching.
And what else?
At the moment of on the advert making deep. Okay. When deep sleep, is this not thinking?
Think about the answer. Is there nothing?
So what is the thinking? That's it, thinking about something, right? And in deep sleep, it has the object with kusala citta, and it sorry, I lost this one.
So by questioning, one can understand how much what one heard is understood, especially about the realities, not just the word. It is so natural. And what is, while one is asleep, can they be thinking? While one is...
While sleeping, still dream. So dreaming is thinking.
So when there will be no thinking at all,
yeah, deep sleep, but yeah, deep sleep, no thinking.
What is that reality, deep sleep?
Bhavanga citta.
In deep sleep, which citta arises when?
I'm just still thinking of Bhavanga classify as thinking, so just classify as no thinking, because it's the kusala citta, right, for human being. Bhavanga citta with the vipaka with a result of kusala citta. Okay.
Does it experience any object through the mind door process?
Not mind door process. So, what is the doorway for the Bhavanga?
What do you think the doorway is? Does it experience an object through the eye door process?
No.
Ear door?
No.
Nose, tongue, body door? And you said not the mind door, so what doorway?
So no door.
No door.
Okay.
So it's the realities which experience an object not in a process through a doorway, and when those bhavanga chittas are interrupted, there is a sense door process or a mind door process.
And in the sense door and mind door processes, which moments of those processes would be thinking moments?
Thinkings in the mind door process after the bhavanga.
No, we're talking now about sense door and mind door
door.
processes.
Okay.
There are several jittas in a process.
Yeah.
Which ones would be the thinking jittas? Right. Okay, so it's the javana jittas in the mind door process that are thinking. Kusala or akusala jittas.
Okay.
Same in the sense.
Is thinking now kusala or akusala?
Without understanding, so akusala most of the time.
It's only words, but the real one has gone completely. That's why it's not known yet until Panya develops.
Yeah, is there thinking when there is when the object appears well? I'm not sure. Maybe Ajarn would like to answer.
We have to understand it's now objects appear well. Now, do all the objects appear well? It arises and falls away without understanding at all. And when we say that citta experiences the object, it means that the chief just know what is there, but not understanding its nature as not self, or just a moment or a reality. See, when we use the word well, it doesn't mean that when citta experience clearly, but it means it appears well because it just arises and falls away in split seconds. So that's why this whispered object does not appear well yet as it is. Because it always appears as someone or something all the time. So it does not appear well. In samsara, not just today or now. Is this true? True or not? So actually the Buddha's words comes from his enlightenment. It's always beyond expectation. Just one characteristic at a time, not as being of things at all. And whatever appears is only nimitta of reality, not the real one yet.
I have another question from Alan, which is on nimitta, so I just bring it in here. He said, I just want to confirm with regard to direct understanding of reality, even at the level of the first noble truth, this is always the nimitta of reality and not the reality itself. Question. The exception to this is Nibbana and the Lokuttara Chittas? Question.
Can one reality appear, just one?
No, it must be the succession of many. And I think he means, perhaps he's referring to, for example, in sense door process, if panya arises, like in an eye door process.
Can the sense door process understand citta?
No, and cannot be vipassana jnana, just that experience. And is it correct that the only exception is nibbana and the lokuttara cittas? Because of course nibbana doesn't have nimitta. The lokuttara cittas have nimitta. So if lokuttara citta is the object of panya,
does nibbana arise?
No.
So can it have nimitta?
No, but the magga and pala cittas arise, so they have nimitta. So
that's the only moment.
Only moment.
Only.
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, when it is the reviewing consciousness after enlightenment, and those lokuttara cittas are the object, then it still must be nimitta of those cittas, because actually they've fallen away.
When it's not only one, it must be nimitta.
Many.
So we live in the world of nimitta, depending on whether panya understands it or not. Is it good to know that one does not know enough yet? Not enough yet. Never enough until all kilesas are completely eradicated, absolutely. That's why the Buddha said, don't cling to that which is gone and that which hasn't come yet. Only what appears now can be developed to higher or more understanding. Is there clinging when one thinks of one's own dreaming at night? See, still wake up and think about it. What about the past moment and the future moments?
Dreaming all day, dreaming about the past, the future, about the other dreams. Sunny at each moment, so that even the one who seems forgetful in old age, still there is dreaming about dreams and dreaming about the past, the future, just like now.
Is it accurate to say that the difference between dreaming at night and the dream we all live during the day, the difference is that there's no sense door processes during the night than when you're asleep, but there's still sanya, and there must at times also be Vedana, because we can wake up shocked during a dream.
Vedana each moment.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
whether
Yeah,
dreaming
yeah, yeah.
or experiencing the sense doors, Vedana at each moment.
So talking about dream, we know that in the suttas sometime it mentioned about Deva, the Devata, they inform someone through their dreams about something that will happen.
So I just wonder how it could happen.
When you say you wonder how, what are you asking exactly?
In terms of realities. In terms of realities.
Would have to be concept.
It has to be.
What happens when?
When it is said that the beings in the Devata world can appear in a dream and inform the person of something. So what is the reality?
But how could it happen? Like,
how does it happen?
No matter what, it's just that which thinks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that which thinks, that is the dream. Yeah. So usually thinking is conditioned in this stream of consciousness. So I don't know, maybe the deva do something that
is that they're seeing and thinking, hearing and thinking, or think without seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, just thinking. Not I who dreams about Devata at all. And actually what is Deva? Only seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching in that realm. And when reality appears, is there any realm?
No.
That's why we talk about the realm of Citta, the level of Citta, Bhumi of Citta.
Bhumi of Citta?
Kama Bhumi, thinking about that. Rupa Bhumi, Arupa Bhumi, and Lokuttara Bhumi.
We know that there are many objects that can be experienced through the mind door that can't be experienced through the sense doors.
Okay.
I think that's the only answer we can give.
Okay.
We know that Citta is like the magician conjuring up whatever can be unimagined without any limit. Anything can be imagined or dreamt about.
I'm just thinking, but it's gone. Not sure. Because we mentioned about the thinking. So thinking, we're talking about it over the mind, right? On the Citta, over the mind, we call it thinking. Because in the Bhavanga Citta, it also have the root, like Adosa, Aloba, and the other Kusala Citta also have. So, and it have no door for Bhavanga to arise, and thinking have a door to arise. But the number of like Cittasika, or even at the moment of the Citta arise, and also the object, it's quite similar. So how we say the Bhavanga Citta, not the thinking, and the thinking over the mind door is the thinking, or just the concept of classifying. You got my point, right?
Actually, it depends how you're defining thinking. When we're talking like nas now, and we're saying, like while dreaming is just thinking, or in the mind door process there's thinking but not in the sense door. This is one meaning of thinking that we're using generally. But if you want to be precise and start talking about Vitakka Cetasika, for example, then you have to consider when Vitakka arises. So Vitakka arises immediately after seeing, even in the sense door process and in the mind door processes, and even with those Bhavanga Cittas which arise with those wholesome roots. So it depends how you are defining Vitakka, how you're defining thinking. That's why when one's more and more precise, one considers the actual dharmas and when they arise. and actually vitaka arises with every citta except for seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and some jhana cittas. So even with bhavanga cittas.
It might also, I don't know if this is helpful, but bhavanga citta, life continuum.
I think we need to pause for lunch and we can continue with this topic afterwards. Today we will start again at 2 o'clock and continue until 4 o'clock. So 2 till 4 this afternoon.